The moment Daniel opened his eyes that morning, he felt something was terribly wrong. The ceiling above him wasn't the cracked, yellowed ceiling of his tiny rented room. The sheets wrapped around his body were soft, expensive, and smelled faintly of lavender. For a few seconds, he lay still, his heart pounding as confusion clouded his thoughts. Then he turned his head, and everything inside him froze. A woman sat at the edge of the large bed, clutching a white sheet tightly around herself. Her shoulders trembled slightly, and her eyes were distant, as if she was trying to piece together fragments of a memory she wasn't sure she wanted to remember. And that's when Daniel realized the truth. The poor hotel cleaner had spent the night with the CEO of the very company whose floors he scrubbed every morning. Before we continue, take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with someone who believes in kindness and second chances, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy powerful life stories like this one. Daniel's mind raced wildly as the memories from the previous night slowly crawled back. He remembered the rain pouring heavily over the city. He remembered finishing his late shift at the luxury hotel where he worked as a cleaner. And he remembered finding the woman sitting alone at the bar, clearly drunk, her elegant posture unable to hide the sadness in her eyes. She had looked completely out of place despite being in the most expensive hotel in the city. Her makeup was slightly smudged, her voice unsteady, and her laughter hollow. Somehow, in that strange moment, she had started talking to Daniel as if he were the only person in the room who truly saw her. He hadn't even known who she was at the time. To him, she had simply been a lonely stranger. They talked for hours. She spoke about pressure, about expectations, about the exhausting loneliness that came with success. Daniel listened quietly, offering the kind of patience that life had taught him after years of struggle. One moment blurred into the next, and somehow, through alcohol, vulnerability, and two lonely hearts colliding, they ended up in the same room. Now the sun was rising and reality was settling in. The woman slowly turned her head toward him. Her expression was no longer confused. It was cold, controlled, and filled with the quiet authority of someone used to being in power. Her name was Victoria Hayes, the billionaire CEO whose company owned the very hotel Daniel worked in. Daniel felt the blood drain from his face. He immediately sat up, panic spreading through his chest. His mind filled with terrifying possibilities. Losing his job would be the least of his problems. One accusation from a woman like her could destroy his life completely. But Victoria wasn't looking at him with anger. She looked conflicted. The room filled with a heavy silence. Outside, the city was waking up, unaware that two people from completely different worlds were sitting on opposite sides of the same bed, wondering how their lives had collided so unexpectedly. Daniel quickly dressed, his hands trembling slightly as he prepared to leave. He expected security to burst through the door at any second. He expected humiliation, accusations, maybe even police involvement. But none of that happened. Victoria simply watched him quietly. When he reached the door, he paused for a brief moment. There was a strange weight in the air, something neither of them could explain. Then he stepped out, returning to the world where he was just another invisible worker. But the story didn't end there. Over the next few days, Daniel tried desperately to forget what had happened. He threw himself into his work, scrubbing floors, emptying trash bins, and keeping his head down like he always had. Yet something strange began to happen. Victoria Hayes started visiting the hotel more often. At first, the staff assumed she was simply inspecting the property. After all, she owned dozens of luxury hotels across the country. But Daniel noticed something unusual. Every time she walked through the lobby, her eyes searched the room. And every time they found him, there was a flicker of recognition she tried and failed to hide. For Victoria, that night had shattered something she had built carefully for years, the emotional walls that protected her from the world. Daniel had spoken to her without fear, without ambition, without trying to impress her. He had treated her like a human being, not a powerful CEO. That simple honesty haunted her. Meanwhile, Daniel was living in constant anxiety. He expected consequences at any moment. A poor cleaner didn't belong in the same world as a billionaire executive. But weeks passed. Then one afternoon, something unbelievable happened. Daniel was called to the hotel's executive office. His heart pounded as he walked into the luxurious room. Sitting behind the massive glass desk was Victoria Hayes herself. The silence between them was heavy, filled with memories of that one reckless night neither of them could undo. But instead of anger, Victoria's eyes carried something softer: reflection. She had spent years building an empire, sacrificing friendships, relationships, and peace of mind. That night with Daniel had forced her to see something she had forgotten long ago: that genuine human connection had nothing to do with money or power. And Daniel, the invisible cleaner everyone overlooked, had reminded her of that truth. What happened next would change both of their lives in ways neither of them expected. Victoria didn't fire him. She didn't threaten him. Instead, she did something far more shocking. She offered him an opportunity. Daniel had always been hardworking, observant, and quietly intelligent. Over the years, he had seen everything that happened behind the scenes of the hotel industry. Victoria realized that someone like him understood the business in ways executives sitting in glass offices never could. She offered to sponsor his education and train him within the company, not because of that night, but because she believed in the person she had seen beneath the cleaner's uniform. Daniel walked out of that office with tears quietly forming in his eyes. For the first time in his life, someone powerful had seen potential in him rather than just his position. And that moment changed everything. Now, before we reach the end of this powerful story, here's a special request. Comment the word hope below if you believe one unexpected moment can change someone's entire life. Years later, Daniel would become one of the most respected managers within Victoria's company. Their lives remained connected not by scandal or secrets, but by a shared understanding that sometimes the most meaningful encounters happen when two broken moments collide. And for Victoria, that one rainy night reminded her that success without humanity is just another form of loneliness. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories that remind us how powerful kindness can truly be.